Everybody take your cell phone, put it on silence. I'd like to call the May 15, 2012 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners to order. And as always, we'll begin with Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And tonight, Commissioner Bailey will give our invocation.
You'll pray with me, please. Lord, we ask that you give thanks for, and we give thanks for the beauty of our county and this region. We give thanks for the people who live and work here. We pray for this commission, that all of the decisions that we make will serve our county, be in the best interest of our citizens. We also pray that the decisions of the state and those of the President and Congress at the federal level, and all of those folk will set aside their personal agendas, work diligently for the betterment of our state, for the betterment of our county. Finally, we ask blessings and healing on those who are sick, those who are in need. And for all these things we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. We have, in pre-session, gone over our proposed agenda, and we are going to pull up from the consent agenda the Eagle Market Street development and place that as our first item in new business. Other than that change, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as it's been proposed?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, a motion by Commissioner Peterson, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We will follow the agenda as we have discussed. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by this board, it's the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before our board today?
No, sir.
Okay, then we will proceed. First item is Vice Chair Stanley is going to give a proclamation on Older Americans Month. I think we have Wendy Marsh with the Council of Aging here to accept the proclamation.
If you want to read this thing. Asked me to do this. I hadn't quite qualified for this yet, but we're working towards that. Or I've aged out. I don't know which it is. One of them, I suppose. This is a proclamation of Older Americans Month. Whereas Buncombe County is fortunate to have approximately 39,000 persons of age 60 and older who live, work, and volunteer their time in Buncombe County. Whereas these citizens have contributed and continue to contribute to family life, neighborhoods, cities, and schools in our area, reflecting a great diversity of backgrounds and capabilities. And whereas many older people continue as a part of the workforce, and others continue as an army of volunteers that perform invaluable duties that allow our community to grow and flourish. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows: that the month of May 2012 be proclaimed Older Americans Month in Buncombe County. That all citizens be urged to take time to thank our older citizens for their many contributions, past, present, and future, to the growth and development of our community. That this board takes this opportunity to thank the Aging Coordinating Consortium and the many other local agencies that work with our county's older citizens for their dedication and commitment to the older Americans of our county. Proclamation be effective upon its adoption. Mr. Chairman, I move the adoption of the Older Americans proclamation.
Second.
And a motion by Vice Chair Stanley, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The proclamation is adopted 5-0.
You want to speak? Okay, you're going to do it later. All right, you betcha. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Ms. March, and thank you for the Council on Aging and the consortium. Next, we have a public hearing on the resolution declaring the intent of the county to reimburse itself for capital expenditures incurred in the connection with the expansion of the county's construction and demolition landfill, the replacement of a chiller at the Enka campus of AB Tech, and the acquisition of land and a building for use of the administrative office for AB Tech. We have Donna Clark here to give a presentation for the public hearing, and after Mrs. Clark gives our presentation, we will get questions from our commission and then take public comment.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. The reimbursement resolution is actually just a normal piece of business. Sometimes we put those on consent agenda, but because other items were on the agenda, we just put it with it. So we'll take that last if that's okay. The purpose of the public hearing is to take public comment regarding issuing limited obligation bonds to finance several projects, and that includes the Public Safety Training Facility, Courthouse Phase 2, some automation at DSS, a landfill expansion sale, a chiller at the Enka campus of AB Tech, a building at 93 Victoria to be used by AB Tech, and radio equipment and site acquisition. We've had some questions about our debt position, so before we start the public hearing, if it's okay with you, I would like to review our debt and use some charts that maybe will put your mind at ease. So if Judy will start the presentation. I don't. Okay. Thank you. Ooh, that's red. Throughout the presentation, Buncombe County will be denoted in red. It looked better on a smaller screen. Sorry. I'm so tall. It's hard to get down there. It is true. Our total. Can you go back one slide, Judy? That's it. Thank you. Our total outstanding debt is $340 million. That part's true. But that's total outstanding debt. That is not general fund debt. And of our total outstanding debt, 48% is for education, of which we have a funding source, or a dedicated funding source, which is the Articles of Sales Tax. And you can see the breakdown of the rest of our debt. General fund debt is just over $180 million. And you can see that this slope is just, it's just a perfect picture of how you amortize debt. So we're very pleased with that. I'm going to talk now about how our position is positive and how we know that. We're going to benchmark ourselves against 9 urban counties, the largest urban counties in North Carolina, and those are Catawba, Cumberland, Durham, Forsyth, Gaston, Guilford, Mecklenburg, New Hanover, and Wake. There's a title missing there, I'm sorry. The graph on your left is titled What We Own versus What We Owe. And as you can see, the large cylinder is what we own. The small cylinder is what we owe. And the source of the assets. We have a lot of assets, and just a little debt on those assets. So if you look on to the chart next to it, the total debt to assets ratio, when you benchmark us against those 9 other urban counties, you can see that it's low. Those other counties have more debt per asset than we do. There came my, that's cool, I didn't know it did that. If you look at debt payments as a percent of expenditures, whether you look at it from the general fund perspective or from the governmental activities perspective, the general fund includes just our general fund debt. Governmental activities includes education as well as our enterprise fund. You can see that we benchmark excellently against those other 9 urban counties. Our debt as a percentage of the total expenditures is less than the average of those urban counties. Looking at our total debt per capita, same thing. Our debt is less than the average of the 9 urbans, as well as our debt as a percentage of assessed valuation, which is extremely low. So what do the rating agencies say about Buncombe County and their debt program? They say it's physically sound, that it's sustainable, it's conservative, it has a rapid principal repayment amortization. We are proud of our debt management program, and we welcome questions. We're transparent. All of this information actually is available on the North Carolina Department of State Treasurer's website. But as you can see, we stack up pretty well in North Carolina, and from what the rating agencies tell us, we stack up well in the nation.
And who are they? Who are we talking about, the rating agencies?
Moody's and Standard and Poor's.
So that's national groups.
Those are national groups. So if you don't have any questions, or if you do, I'll be happy to answer those. Otherwise, we can start the public hearing.
I'm good.
Okay, so the public safety training facility is also included in here as part of the refinancing.
Yes, sir. We financed some getting the site prep ready. We financed that in the 2010 bonds. So this is the actual construction costs.
All right. All righty. We will have a public hearing. Any member of the public that wishes to be heard can come up and we will hear from you. 3 minutes, Mr. Yelton, and we'll start the public hearing at 4:43.
Don Yelton, Jupiter, out there on 197. The end is not being fixed. I would love to have seen a breakout. Bundling is not permitted for income tax purposes. So I don't think we should permit bundling when we put a bond before us like that. That bond should have been represented with every item on there and the amount of each of those items. And that information is available, and I am requesting that to be provided to me. I'll take that just for a matter of information, but I want that information. Charts and graphs are wonderful and great. We had the assets, and we saw how the assets were up here. I would assume those assets have to do with buildings and property and land. And I know sometimes I've talked to the tax department how they appraise the county buildings, and they don't. So is our assets based upon yesterday's value or today's actual value? Because we had 2 hotels here in Asheville just sell. One was, what, $2.8 million, sold for $1.6 million. We had another piece of property, $1.3 million, sold for $700 million. So our assets may not be this big. It may be about this big. And I'd like to know how those assets are expressed and how they're evaluated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I am Reverend Lisa Landis,
and I wrote down a couple of things. And I haven't been here for a while. I've been trying to keep an eye on you, but AB Tech Financing. The last time I was here, I think that there was a tax that was put out that was supposed to be helping AB Tech, if I'm correct in that. And it's like, well, if they got that quarter, wasn't it a 0.25% tax? And it's like, why ask for more money now? I'm questioning that. And then it's like the debt in the general fund. The debt in the general fund. Well, there again, I'm going to go back to when I was here the last time, and they were talking about that there was an excess in the general fund. And it's like, well, if there was an excess the last time I was here, what happened to that excess, and how do we get a debt now? And it's like, you know, the debt, you know, I was kind of wondering about the debt, you know, the money and the Linamar. Isn't that in part of where Linamar, or am I a little bit ahead of the agenda? Where there's a payment due for Linamar. Is that in this, what we're talking about now?
No, ma'am.
No, so I am a little bit ahead of myself, because I definitely want to talk about that part too. So I think that's about it for now. If I could get some answers to that. I still live here, even though I've been hiding for my life. You can send it to Post Office Box 1574 in Arden, and let me see, 28704. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Any other public comment today? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. On the chillers at Enka and the acquisition land for the administrative, is this outside of the sales tax that is going to be on the projection, or is this projections on the sales tax?
This will be paid for with the sales tax.
Okay, so we're dealing with projections and what we're going to do with our money that we ain't got and maybe we get. Is that it? Spending our money before we get it, or projecting it anyway. I love budgets that are on projections, because, you know, projections are just that until you figure out what it is. My concern on the debt, if we have such a good debt and a lot of assets, I would ask you commissioners to let's lower the rate of the taxpayers and go to revenue neutral. Because if we can present something this fabulous on paper, I'd like to see the reality to come to the taxpayers that's been suffering for so long. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
Where'd he be?
CTS.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Aaron Pendlin. I'm from the South Asheville area. Coming to you tonight, I know you're all aware, and people here is aware of the groundwater contamination that's been going on in South Asheville from the former CTS of Asheville site.
Is this on a public hearing on the refinancing?
Public comment.
I'm sorry.
We're not.
You're welcome to talk. Right now we're talking. You're welcome to talk at public comment a little bit later on. Right now we're talking about the refinancing project, about the for various items. So we're glad to hear you on that, or we'll save your time and we'll start you over again in public comment. Thank you, Mr. Penland. Okay. Any other public comment on the refinancing issue? All right. Then I'll declare the public hearing closed at 4:49. Donna, there were some questions. If you could answer some of those. I think each one of the speakers, I think, had a question.
Mr. Chairman, if I can remember them all, you can help me. I think one of the first ones was they needed a list of the projects, and I'm happy I have one. Otherwise, I'm not sure they... Okay.
Well, let's just post it. Let's put it
Sure.
in part of our record so everybody will have access. But send Mr. Yelton one directly. Sure. And I think he also asked, are the assets based on the proper value? In other words, are they old values or current values?
The assets are based on historical costs, what we actually paid for the asset.
Okay. Go ahead. Any other? Let's see.
What was the other question? Sorry.
I think Reverend Landis asked about needing question about whether we had enough money in the, let's see, she said there was an excess general fund money, and now we're borrowing money, I think. Was that the gist of that, Lynn?
There is fund balance or savings in the general fund. However, these projects exceed that. You can't build $79 million worth of projects. You can't pay for those all at once. So we are financing those over a 20-year period.
Like buying a house.
Like buying a house.
Okay. And then I think there was a question about the chiller. Was that paid for with? I think maybe Dr. Green's answered that about the chiller. What was the relationship of that with the sales tax? Is that right, Jerry?
All of the AB Tech projects will come out of the sales tax money.
All right. Are there any questions from our? That's what I had. Did we cover the ones? Okay. Any questions from our board about? What's our rate?
Probably.
No, we won't know exactly, but what's the range?
We won't know
gonna be?
exactly. Probably in the low threes.
Okay. No, we don't. We've already had public comment. We're talking now.
Okay.
So low 3%. And is that the normal rate right now, or is that how does that compare with other times that we've borrowed money?
That's the normal rate right now, but that's extraordinarily low, and we're issuing in a good time. But then a year ago, we didn't think interest rates would go any lower than that either. So, but we do think they'll start trending upward.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about this amendment for the refinancing?
Mr. Chairman, you have two resolutions. The other one is a reimbursement resolution for some expenditures that we've incurred to get ready for some of these projects, and we would like to reimburse ourselves, and hence the reimbursement resolution. And then the reimbursement resolution approving issuing the limited obligation bonds.
All right, so we have a reimbursement resolution and a limited obligation bond resolution, two different ones. All right, let's take the first one up. Is there a motion on the reimbursement resolution as presented?
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
And a motion by Vice Chair Stanley, a second by Commissioner Peterson on the resolution, reimbursement resolution. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The reimbursement resolution is adopted 5-0. And then I think we have a need for a limited obligation bond resolution. Is that right?
Yes. It's approving the county manager and the finance director to execute the documents necessary to close that financing.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, please?
It is allowing the finance director and the county manager to execute the necessary documents to issue and close that.
And this is the low 3% bond.
Mm-hmm. And I'll report back to you on how that goes.
Okay.
They will be sold publicly.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Jones. Is there any discussion of the limited obligation bond resolution? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The limited obligation bond resolution is adopted. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Next up, we have Mr. Frew is going to tell us about the Waste Pro rate increase request. That does not involve water, as I said in the pre-hearing there.
Yeah.
We got enough water problems without adding that to Waste Pro.
Correct, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner. I'll kick this off, then hand it over to Bob Christie, who's here today on behalf of Waste Pro. Waste Pro has made a request to the commissioners for an 8% increase on their rate. That would be from $14.20 currently for their customers in the unincorporated areas of the county, up to $15.34. I was reading the next line where they had said their cost for fuel had increased over $10,000 per month. So they're asking to increase from $14.20 to $15.34. As way of housekeeping, how this works is During the first 2 years of the franchise, Waste Pro was prohibited from requesting a rate increase for any reason. The franchise contract came into force on January 1st, 2010. So thereafter, they may make a non-binding request to this board for a rate increase if the consumer price index for wage earners and clerical workers increases by more than 5%. My math is that during that period of time, it has increased by 5.23%, so they're entitled to make the request. But the request to this board is non-binding, so that'll be up to Mr. Christie to make his pitch on behalf of his crew as to whether or not they're entitled to the rate increase. So this board may grant the fee increase following a public hearing. This would be the first pitch at that. It would have to, if it's this board's determination that a rate increase is required or is founded, then it had to be passed by a new ordinance, which would have to pass at 2 readings. So that's the role of the board in this. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to hop back up and try to answer those as best I can.
All right, sir. Let's, Mr. Christie, our former clerk of courts, always good to see you here, sir. Come on up and tell us about this.
Thank you, Chairman Gant, members of the board. When Waste Pro was awarded this contract, it was awarded on September 1st, 2009, and came into effect January 1st, 2010. As Mr. Frew said, the original contract price was $14.20 and has not changed. Excuse me, pollen's got me or something here. On January the 1st, Waste Pro was paying $2.63 a gallon for diesel fuel. It currently is $4.03. It's an increase of $1.40 per gallon. We spent last month $47,000 in diesel fuel costs, and that's a $12,000 a month increase over what we were paying on January 1st, 2010. Our insurance premiums have also gone up 7% since 2010. Labor costs have increased 3%. We've given a 3% raise to our workers. Since September the 1st, 2009, when the contract was bid, the tip fee was $42 a ton at the landfill. It's currently $47 a ton. Repairs for vehicles have increased due to increased parts and materials. Currently, our margin on residential accounts in Buncombe County is less than 2%. It's really 1.32%. This leaves no margin for error, and as Chairman Gant knows, if we had a large workers' comp claim, we would be in serious trouble for that month and for several months after that. A new truck costs approximately $285,000 to replace if we had to buy a new truck. Since we have complied and since the margin allows a request, we're hereby requesting an 8% increase that would bring us pretty much in line to what we had when we started this contract on January the 1st, 2010. I've given each of you a short synopsis of this. Thank you for your attention to this. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
All right, sir. Any questions for Mr. Christie?
So what you just said is the 8% takes you to the same.
Pretty much the same level we were at January 1st, 2010, as far as profitability.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Is diesel fuel going down?
It went down last month just a little bit, but I don't know. You know, who knows what that's.
It won't stay there long, I bet you. Like
Who
gas
knows?
won't. Yeah.
I've been trying to get them to go to CNG trucks, but at $285,000 a truck for 15 to 20 trucks, you know, it's kind of an expensive outlay, even though the CNG is only $1.50 a gallon right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
You're not going to have a public, is this not a public hearing?
Do we have a public hearing now? Yes. On this? Okay. Let's hear from the public. We'll do 3 minutes. Any member of the public wish to be heard? Mr. Yelton? And we're starting up at 5 o'clock, public hearing on the Waste Pro request.
Don Yelton. Trash is near and dear to me. I got a bumper sticker on my truck that says, "I love trash." That's how I can put up with politics. There's no doubt that fuel costs have gone through the roof. There's no doubt they need a rate increase. Probably the reason your contract was worded that way was to keep them from bidding so low to get the business and then upping and making money. And that's a problem when you have people doing bids and they're trying to not understand what the bid provider's having to go through. You would have been better off to have had a fuel clause in your original contract to permit the trash company to adjust for the fuel cost. That way then they could have gone up or go down with the market. And it may go down because right now today it's $95 a barrel. And it looks like if Greece pulls out of the euro market, it's going to even go further down. So that's part of your contract negotiation. Also, I know that when they first got the contract, in Barnesville you had someone that lived about 1.5 miles off the road. And they had someone locally picking up their trash at their house because there's about 8 houses on that road. And according to Waste Pro and the Waste Pro manager that I called, they did not want to go up that road. And I can understand that. They didn't want to go up that road at that cost. But the county got involved and stopped this other guy from picking it up. So this person took their trash and went and put it in their dumpster at their workplace. Also at the same time, now according to the contract, if I'm not mistaken, they're supposed to take all their trash to Buncombe County Landfill. And as we go forward with this public hearing, I would like to see the tonnage that Waste Pro is bringing to the Buncombe County Landfill. And I'd like to see that grafted out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yelton. Any other public comment? Reverend Landis.
Reverend Lisa Landis. As Don Yelton had spoken about the gas price going down, I'm also wondering if the gas price is going down and staying down, is there going to be a readjustment to compensate for the gas price going down? The $285,000 for a new garbage truck, that pays a lot of wages. My husband used to work on a garbage truck, and he definitely didn't make a whole lot of money. So, I have to question, why we have to constantly buy new in order to progress in our society. I know that he used to bring a whole lot of good stuff home that people used to throw away. And I'm wondering if this is also including any type of recycling. If we're going to keep getting more and more garbage, the price is going to continue to increase. So what are we doing? Is there any type of recycling in this? And are we going to continually say we are going to become a dispendable, exposable society? So, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Any other comments? Mr. Belt?
Joe Belcher from Candler. I would just caution that one of the things that we've run into with our company is continued surcharges that are a result of whether it be OSB increasing costs. And what I've found with even within our own manufacturing group, that when those surcharges are added, we tend to never get them back. So if the cost increase here is just to protect the profitability of the company, there's a lot of companies that are, they're flatlining on their profit, or they're not making as much money on their profit. A lot of companies are struggling with that. I would just caution that if a surcharge could be applied rather than just a complete rate increase, something that actually could come back to the citizens at a later date once they establish that they either are not making as much money as they used to, or they're making whatever their stockholders would require. But I would just be very careful of adding on something that can never be taken back down. If there's a way to put something on that could actually be removed, obviously that's going to be better for the county, better for the citizens, and also would be equally as good for the company, because they could, once things drop, the costs drop, they could remove those charges. So I don't know what has been done in looking into this, and what information has been brought to y'all before tonight. So I would just make sure that I would, caution to do that, because once things are added on, it's tough to ever get them back. That's for sure. So anything that could be variable is much better than something we could put on there that could be fixed. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
My name is Scott Welch, and I'm the owner and president of Consolidated Waste Services. I'd just like to point out one thing that was kind of quoted. I don't know if you fully maybe kind of grasp that. Mr. Christie indicated that the tipping fee was $42 per ton. Well, if it's $42 a ton, I've been overcharged by Buncombe County because my gate rate's $43. $47 per ton is Waste Management's probably the rate that they're currently getting from them. So, I have a lot of municipal contracts myself, but it's very rare that I ever get an 8% increase. The most I normally get is between 3 and 4%.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Don Lilienfeld, good afternoon. I just would like to reinforce what Mr. Yelton said about rewriting the contract. If I heard correctly, this is an optional thing, and I certainly don't want a company to go under. But at the same time, if it's a fuel surcharge that we're looking at, then let's be clear that it's a surcharge, and if fuel goes down, the surcharge goes down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Okay, any other public comment tonight? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. One question I think needs to be asked for the company is what kind of fuel they're using, and can they use cleaner fuel? Like the school bus garage went to a cleaner fuel, and I think it was a cheaper fuel to clean up the air as well, because there are a lot of traffic on the road. And I'd like to know from the company side if that is a savings, if they go that route, and even if it ain't a savings, it'll clean the air. The other thing is when the other company was here, I remember it when it first started. That's back before your day almost there, Mr. Gann. But I remember shortly after they had their contract done, they was right back in here wanting to increase the same way this company is doing. So they got to be a way of fixing this to where it's not coming back in here 3 months after a contract or 6 months after a contract. They need to be something that's going to make sustainability, and it ought to be spelled out clearly, because this is something that's been repeated in the past. This is not a new thing that we're hearing today, so something needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight? All right, if there is none, I will declare the public hearing closed at 5:10. And what is the pleasure of our board?
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if we could maybe ask our staff to do a look-see into this thing, some of these things we've heard tonight, plus the things that they've indicated to us, and bring that back to us before at our next meeting.
Okay. Is there I'll take that as a motion to instruct staff.
Yes, sir.
to investigate some of the issues raised and to get more background about service and the like. Does that sound right? All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Is there any discussion of Vice Chair Stanley's motion to get some more information and have our staff do some background? If not, all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and we will get with Mr. Christie and Waste Pro and get a report back at our next meeting. Thank you. We do not have a county manager's report. Next matter of business is one that we've pulled from the consent agenda, is the letter of intent to loan Mountain Housing $2 million for the Eagle Market Street development. I'd like to recognize Mr. Dedman and Ms. Weeks to maybe come up and tell us about that. And any designees they have. Okay. Mr. Darrell Hart of Eagle Street Market Development. Thank you, Mr. Hart. Always a pleasure to see you.
And Matthew.
And Matthew Bacote, among others.
Willie Benson.
Willie.
And Willie.
Willie.
You got a fine group there. Tell us about this project, folks.
Well, good evening, commissioners, and appreciate you taking out your time to entertain this for us. This is a partnership between Eagle Market Street Development Corporation and HMO and Mountain Housing. And really, it's really more than that, actually. It's really a partnership with the city, with the county, with the surrounding neighborhoods in that area. And with you all's help and your assistance, this will transform this whole in the city. What we have is about 60 to 70 units of affordable rental housing, over 6,000 square feet of community and neighborhood space, 7,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and office space. And we hope you'll entertain this seriously and see how important it will be not only just for us but also for our community. A lot of times we don't think broadly enough when we say community. That means people in the city, people in the county. It affects us all, and we can get it fixed. We ask for your participation and help. Thank you.
Do we have a range? Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Scott Dedman. I'm Executive Director of Mountain Housing Opportunities. Chairman Gant, Vice Chairman Stanley, Commissioners, County Manager Dr. Green, and the county staff. Thank you, first of all, for your long-standing commitment and support for affordable housing and workforce housing in this community. In all of Buncombe County, Asheville, and Buncombe County. In particular, thank you for considering this loan for the Eagle Marketplace. We very much appreciate it. I'm going to introduce quickly the members of the team that are here today, and then the last person I introduce will be Cindy Weeks, and she will speak briefly further to some of the details. We have here, you met Mr. Darrell Hart, the chairman of the board of Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation. Continuing with that group, we have Ms. Stephanie Swepson-Twitty, CEO of Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation. We have Mr. David Nutter, a member of the board of Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation. We have the chair of the board of Mountain Housing Opportunities, Ms. Alfie Rodriguez. We have Ms. Willie Vincent, former chair of the board of Mountain Housing Opportunities and a current member of the board. We have Mr. Matthew Bacote, Jr., who is a member of the board of Mountain Housing Opportunities and one of the unofficial historians of the Eagle Market Street neighborhood, right here. And finally, the manager of community investments for Mountain Housing Opportunities, Ms. Cindy Weeks.
Now I get to take all the hard questions. Did you have a question, Chairman Gant?
Yeah, I was. Do you have a range for the unit cost?
Yes.
Ballpark. I know you won't know exactly till, of course, it's
right.
in there. But
well, first of all, we have our breakdown is 39 one-bedroom units, 18 two-bedroom, and 4 three-bedroom, and we have 1 efficiency unit. And the rental rates start at $200 per unit per month, with the smallest unit, the efficiency, up to $780 a month for the largest 3-bedroom unit, which is about half of the going rate of a market rate unit in Buncombe County at this time, if you compare it to developments like Weir Bridge and some of the others that are being constructed right now. But it'll be a comparable product as well. I wanted to, I'll take any other questions, but I also wanted to address, Ms. Green gave me a copy of an email you received from the Historic Preservation Society. I wanted to address that, but before that, are there any other questions?
Cindy, do you mind explaining how the money will be leveraged and who is participating in that?
Yes.
Please,
I think that we're really excited about this project, and we were requested by Eagle Market Streets Development Corporation about 2 years ago to come in and provide technical assistance to bring this forward, and we were just thrilled and honored to be asked by them. It's a really unique project in that we're competing. The main reason we're here today to ask for this level of support is we're competing with 142 projects across the state for 30 that will be funded by the state of North Carolina. And ours is very unique. It's a city and county collaboration. We'll be the only housing tax credit project in the state that is being proposed in a historic African American business district. Actually, we'll probably be one of the few in the nation. We might be the only one in the nation, honestly. This is a really unique project, rebuilding this neighborhood. The funds that have been raised locally will leverage about $6 million of additional equity through the state. And the way that works is what we're competing for are tax credits. Mm-hmm. Those tax credits are sold to private corporations, which makes it a really pure public-private partnership. And locally, we've raised, this will raise over $2 million locally in local funds, which is also unprecedented, I think, in the state of North Carolina.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any other questions about that?
And the city of Asheville is also involved here?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. The email you received from the Historic Preservation Society, I just wanted to address that for a minute. First of all, because this project is in a historic district, we had to go through a very rigorous process of historic approval. The Historic Preservation Society is a private nonprofit. The board that you appoint members to is the Historic Resources Commission of Asheville and Buncombe County, and you have several appointees on that board. They approved this project unanimously, as did the city's Downtown Commission, the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. So we feel we're in good graces with the historic folks. We also had to be approved by the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, which is a very rigorous and difficult approval to get. Regarding some of the issues that were raised by the Preservation Society, when we presented to them, our project was larger than it is now. We've scaled it down. We've taken a floor, 1 story off of the building in response to a lot of community comments about the balance of commercial and residential and community space. We've increased the amount of commercial space back into the project. And lastly, if you look at the number of units that we're proposing, it's roughly equivalent to the number of units that were in that neighborhood prior to urban renewal that were wiped out. And so we feel good about that as well. That's a historic element as well. Are there any other questions?
So basically, we're just trying to get the numbers back the way they were before the neighborhood got destroyed.
Yes, sir.
That's kind of in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yep.
I just think this is like the most exciting thing that's happened this year. I mean, it's so long time coming, and it's beautiful to see all the partners come together and get their minds around a vision together. And I always kind of talk about the immediate impacts that we'll have too in terms of the short-term job creations that will be there. I really wanted to also highlight that I appreciate your setting aside some units for veterans and senior citizens. So there's just so much goodness in this project, in addition to just finally getting it done, because it's been a couple decades we've been trying to jumpstart this, and I think you're there. So I'm thrilled that we're at the table at this point, and I'm really excited, and I just know you're going to get it for us. I just know you are. So,
thank you.
Do we need to move approval or
yeah.
make a motion to approve?
We'll take that motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? I just would say this was one of the most neglected parts of the county for decades, and it's high time we stepped up the plate and made it right. So I'm glad to support this. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Commissioner Jones' motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Yay.
Next up, we have a county sustainability plan, and we have John Creighton here to talk about that. Oops, I'm sorry, aging-friendly plan. I jumped over, got John excited. John was ready to go, though. I saw it. Aging-friendly plan, we have Wendy Marsh and Linda Fields with the Aging Council on Aging to give us a report. Thank you for being here, ladies.
Thank you. My name is Linda Kendall Fields, and I am the coordinator of the Buncombe County Livable and Aging Friendly Plan. Several of you were here in 2008 when that plan was actually adopted by the commissioners, and believe it or not, a 2008 to 2012 plan brings us to 2012. We're nearing the end of this plan. My name is Linda Kendall Fields. I work through Land of Sky on several projects, and I'm here presenting with Wendy Marsh, who's the director of the Council on Aging. And we do thank you for this opportunity just to update you on the status of older adults in Buncombe County on this Proclamation Day for the Older Americans Month, and to update you on where the plan has come out and also what we're doing to prepare for the 2013 to 2017 plan. So I am going to introduce Wendy, who's going to just cover the next few slides. And actually, Judy, I think we need to start the slides, don't we? There we go. Do you want me to do this one? Yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I'm a little shorter, so as long as you can see me, I guess we're doing well. So, thank you, Vice Chair Stanley, for the proclamation. The Council on Aging accepts that with eager anticipation of what's to come in the coming years with adult population getting older. I will ask you to do one thing for me to start out with this, and I'd like you to raise your hand if you are getting older. and you're excused. Yeah, you don't have to do it because you know what, you don't have to worry about that because you're actually in really, really good company. And the proclamation states that 39,000 people are 60 and over. We've been growing a bit since that was last put together. We actually have over 53,000 people in Buncombe County right now, age 60 and older, and we're growing. The age 65 and older population makes up almost 23% of the total population in Buncombe County. And right behind it, that age 46 to 64, the baby boomers you keep hearing about, that's another 26.8% of Buncombe County's population. So our point is, that's when we got these new stats from the Division of Aging and Adult Services, some of them were really kind of disconcerting and surprising, because if you look at the people who are 60 or 65 and up and the people that are in that baby boomer, population, 46 to 64, that's almost 43% of county residents that should be thinking about getting older and what that means to them as they age, and whether or not they're going to need help with that. And because if they don't need it now, they're probably going to need something, even if it's a piece of information about how to buy a service if they have the money in the next 10 to 20 years. So this is all about planning for not just the next 5 years, but what should we be doing ahead. And we've been doing a lot of work under Linda's leadership. We're going to move to the next slide because I'd like to ask you a few questions about the current population and just raise some awareness. So did you know that of those 65 and older in Buncombe County, 30% of those folks are living alone? We here at the Council on Aging interact with probably about 3,500 to 4,000 older adults in Buncombe County every year, and it's just been climbing, whether it's Medicare or people who do home visits. But all of the aging services providers are seeing their numbers go up. And when you have people who live alone, they're much more likely to not know about services, not have an opportunity to get something, and therefore they can deteriorate or get more ill and end up using more community resources than they would if we got to it right away. Thing that I find, and we do with also chair of the Community Awareness and Advocacy Committee for the Aging Coordinating Consortium, and the thing we find most disconcerting, I think, really is that people 65 and older in Buncombe County, 19.4% of those are living at the 100% of poverty level, which, depending upon what you need help with, is about $908. It varies a little bit. What's more so is the group of people, 47.9, that live in what's called near poverty, and that's 199 to 101 to 199% of poverty. And those are the folks that aren't going to get some assistance from traditional sources that require income guidelines, such as Medicaid and that. But they're still going to see their Medicare costs go up. They're still going to see their prescription costs rise if they take medication, and a lot of people do. And they're still going to see general costs rise. So that really puts all together, if you look at Buncombe County, about 67% of folks getting older who are going to need some type of assistance they'll not be able to afford as we go forward. There's just so many more people aging. We've been talking about baby boomers for years. Wait till they get here. Wait till they get here. Now they're here every day. For the next 19 years, 10,000 people are turning 65 in this country. So it's not just in Buncombe County, although we're certainly in North Carolina, Buncombe County, a big example of that. So as we move forward and we think about planning, and Linda will talk more about that, do families do it? Sure they do. They do a lot of it. Families are good, but they're not always there. We work with a lot of people who live alone and don't have those families. So will the services and programs that we're accustomed to see being in the community, and Buncombe County does a wonderful job of seeing to that we get services to the people that need them. But the services and programs they are right now aren't going to be able to meet that growing need. So, as Scarlett O'Hara would say, I'll think about it tomorrow. Well, we can't think about it tomorrow. And we have to acknowledge that it's here, and that's what we're doing, and we need to think about it today. And so as we move forward, we're going to be thinking a lot about that future and what we think it should be. I want to talk about the key services to Buncombe County over the last 9 months. So it's really, really important that we get an opportunity to thank the county commissioners and everybody that's involved with county government that are our partners in making sure that people get their services as much as possible. Over the past 9 months, we've provided over 27,000 hours of in-home aid services to older adults. Here at the Council on Aging, however, we still have an average waiting list of 300 people. It doesn't matter if we put 4 people on, we find 6 more that need the service. So there's never enough money there. And at the Council on Aging, we pay $14.25 to 9 different contracted providers. So they're not getting rich off of this program. They're doing it because they consider it a community contribution. Through Meals on Wheels, over 17,000 meals were provided in people's homes over the last 9 months. Through the Council on Aging, at 5 senior dining sites, we provided more than 19,000 meals. And I'd like to just say we had a little spot on WLOS TV last week, and it was so heartfelt for me to watch it because they just asked a couple of people who attended, why do you come here? It's at Senior Opportunity Center in Asheville. And the lady said, she smiled, she looked like 80-something. She said, I come for the food. People laugh at me when I say that, but I come for the food. Mm. And then another fellow they talked to, he said, well, people need a place to go. If we just stay home, we get lonely and we get depressed. And that's what in-home services really are about. They're about providing the best bang for your buck. Where do you want to live when you get older? there are nice nursing homes. If you can afford them, that's really great. If not, you're kind of going to get whatever is there for you to, wherever you come up on a list. And I'm not saying those are bad, but it's not cheap. So most people, if you ask them, where do you want to live? Well, I'd like to live at home. And that might mean one of several things to you, depending upon where you've been and where you want to go. Most people want to be at home. Community-provided services that help people stay in their home are cheaper. On average, in North Carolina, about $8,500 annually can keep people in their home, depending upon that's what the in-home aid program is for Buncombe County. Or $8,500 a month, $20,000 to $30,000 for assisted living a month, up to an excess of $50,000 for a skilled nursing care that's paid for by public dollars, if you can afford to pay for it. So it's cheaper to keep people in their home through Meals on Wheels, congregate nutrition sites, all those services, adult day. I missed that one, almost 2,700 days of adult day and adult day health provided this last year through Care Partners. And mountain mobility. If you can't get there, it doesn't make any difference. So through the 9 months, almost 33,000 trips were taken on mountain mobility. We think it's really a great bang for your buck. We appreciate your support. We're working hard to meet today's need and plan for tomorrow's need. And just briefly, Linda's going to talk to you about why we plan the way we do and what it's going to look like going forward. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
I'm just going to move through this fairly quickly, but to give you an idea of the context for planning, really the Older Americans Act at the federal level requires aging planning. North Carolina's had initiatives. We were part of a named 6 counties that the North Carolina Senate Bill 448 identified as being counties to watch for how we plan for aging. So, and then a governor's executive order in 2010 for planning as well. I won't read every word on this slide, but basically, our entire plan, and I might say in 2008, 143 recommendations were made through a very comprehensive community effort of getting a lot of input. And basically, the plan was built around 6 areas: safety and support, health and wellness, financial well-being, living environments, which include transportation and housing, social engagement, and coordinated services and supports. ABC, very simple highlight of accomplishments in this time period. Our plan really has been about awareness of services. There are really a lot of wonderful service providers and a lot of very good services. A lot of people didn't know about it. And a lot of providers weren't working as closely together as they might have. So this plan has really been a unifying process. It has really done a good job of moving us in one direction as a community. We broaden our base of buy-in. We have all sorts of people involved in all sorts of initiatives that have resulted in some specific community action, and I'm only going to highlight 3. One community action that really came out of the aging plan was around the service and support coordination part of the plan, and that is the North Carolina Community Resource Connections. If someone doesn't know where to start when they have, for instance, a mother at home who is showing some signs of dementia and there's some questions about housing, where do you begin? A lot of people do not know where to begin. And so the Community Resource Connections is not just about aging, it's about people with disabilities. It's a federal and a state initiative. It has brought a collaboration of aging and disability providers together. And these providers provide information but also help people sift and sort out their options. We're also assisting with nursing home and hospital transitions, getting people back into the community, people who want to be at home. And as Wendy said, there's both financial reasons for this as well as just living reasons, that it really is, on the whole, cheaper to keep people at home. We've had another strong community action, and we've had great participation by the Adult Protective Services and the Buncombe County Sheriff's Office on this. We've held 3 summits on financial fraud, scam, and exploitation, which has been rampant during this economic time. A lot of older adults find themselves the victims of caregivers, family members who have really found this economic time as a time when they move in and take advantage of someone who might be getting a Social Security check or who can be persuaded to have a cosigner on their checking accounts. And we've really targeted the banking and the financial institutions as well as retailers around Buncombe County. And we've gotten wonderful reports both from the Sheriff's Office and from the Adult Protective Services that these summits, including all the folks that are listed here, have increased reports and improved relationships between the business community and others in looking out for the safety and security of our older adults. And then the third one I want to highlight is really a grassroots effort around the living environments part of the plan. We've developed a group called the Buncombe County Culture Change and Aging Network, focusing on housing options, dedicated to creating a culture of aging that is life-affirming, satisfying, humane, and meaningful. We've done a number of things courting providers to look at small home models, ways of caring for people throughout their lifespan. And we are in the process now of having a major forum called Envisioning Home, creating new models of home and community for later life. Those are just 3 examples of the present plan. We're now getting our ducks in a row for the new plan. And the last plan was really about awareness and collaboration and bringing together all the stakeholders and all the people doing good work and needing services in Buncombe County. The new plan is we're sharpening our pencils and actually probably creating a smaller plan with not 143 recommendations. We're going to focus on specific and measurable outcomes for improving life for the existing and emerging aging population. And I think as Wendy shared those statistics, we have some really compelling evidence that there are some groups that need our special assistance, and we need to really be thinking of financial things and health and wellness areas that need specific measurable outcomes and thoughtful strategies for getting at that. Our new plan is in the works. There's a lot of work going on. It will be ready January 1st of 2013, and I imagine I'll be back here sometime around there or in the spring to share with you this finely chiseled new plan. And that is the end of our presentation. Wendy and I thank all of you for this opportunity to be here, and we welcome any questions.
Okay.
Good job.
That's wonderful. Thank you both.
As being one who sat down with these folks 4 years ago over a cup of coffee or 3 cups of coffee, I want to say how proud I am of what you've accomplished and the fact that you can bring this presentation to us, and it shows a real concern and care for our citizens, and we thank you so much and look forward to your new plan. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, ladies. Next up, we have the county sustainability plan, and now we have Mr. John Creighton on the podium.
On the podium.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I want to talk to you tonight about the sustainability plan for Buncombe County. This plan is different than the one that Greg Israel, I guess, presented back in September or October last year, when that was a sustainability plan for the government of Buncombe County, where it looked at fuel usage, carbon footprints, those kind of things. Where this plan is that we went out and we put together a plan, what we feel like is for the citizens of Buncombe County. So I want to start out and kind of give you kind of the step-by-step of the process that we went through. And then Debbie Trumpy in the planning department's going to come up and just kind of walk you through the plan itself. But we started back in 2010. The county manager asked me to to start developing a sustainability plan for the citizens of our county. And at that point, you kind of sit down and you start, well, what are we going to do? Obviously, we went through and we gathered a lot of plans all over the United States and looked at those plans. And there were some good ones out there, and there were some that we weren't really that impressed with. But at that point, we just started gathering data. You know, it's like, okay, what kind of data do we have? What data do we need? You know, what programs are ongoing? What programs are planned? And basically, what is the baseline for measuring these? Because, I mean, that's going to be the real key of, okay, where do we go from here? So at that point, we drafted goals and objectives from the information that we had. And then we basically got together with what we call our focus groups, which was 15 different departments and staff from Buncombe County. Sat down with them and started gathering information. And they were very, very helpful. And then we went back and revised our goals and objectives. Then we decided that at that point we needed a consultant to come in and help us, and we hired CDM Smith, which I think that connection we wanted with the city of Asheville. CDM Smith had done their plan, so we wanted that connection. And Mr. Dave Spector, as part of that operation with CDM Smith, he was instrumental in doing the city's plan, and he also helped us in the development of our plan. So we wanted that connection between us and the city of Asheville. And then early in 2011, we got our sustainability partners together. And I think on 2-1 in the sustainability book that we gave you shows those partners. And Mr. Stanley was one of the 16. I mean, we had a very lively group, a group that wouldn't hold back, that's for sure.
Cracker Jack.
And we wanted a group of people that could help us take the information we've got and to develop a plan, but we also wanted a group of people that were representative of the county that through their business and organization could help us. And also we were looking at a group of people that could help us implement the plan if it was adopted by the commissioners. So there was a lot of things that came together in selecting those 16 different people. The partners worked to finalize the goals and objectives, to formulate the indicators and proposed outcomes and strategy for each goal. And also, they helped us prioritize those strategies, both long-term, short-term, also in looking at the financial considerations, what was easy to implement, what was very hard, and what was best for the community. We held 6 meetings with the sustainability partners, and basically we wrapped up those 16 meetings early last fall. And at that point, it was time to take the draft out to the public. So we started the next step. We got with Kathy Hughes, and basically we got the draft plan out on the web, the county magazine, BCTV, and we started using the social media, being Facebook and Twitter, also YouTube, and we got hard copies of the plan out county manager's office, in the planning department, and also all of our libraries and branch libraries. We put a copy of the plan. We got together also at that time with Steve Duckett because of his connections with the community clubs in Buncombe County. And we planned on 8 meetings around the county. We started advertising. We used those same media that we had in trying to get the plan out to do some advertising. If the community club or fire department had a marquee, we used their marquee. If we didn't, we brought in a portable sign like we had done before with the commissioners' meetings and community meetings. And we started advertising. It took us 2 months to go through that process of going around the county and in the city and holding meetings and getting people's input. At that point, we were at the end of November, so it was time to take the draft plan along with the comments that we'd received from the public back to our partners and sit down and come up with a final plan, which that's what you have before you today. So I guess if you'd asked me 2 years ago, would it take you 2 years to do this, I would have certainly said no. I mean, it was just a long process that really, you wanted to have a lot of data together before you got your partners together to start talking. And then just to go down, and we didn't want to get into a situation where we had developed a plan and it was going to be rubber stamped. We wanted community input, community leaders, people that could also help us put the plan together, so that all took time. But I think that at this point, and Debbie will go through the plan with you, that I think that was the easy part of it, considering that if the plan is implemented, I mean, to keep up with it, to go yearly reports, and then to come back in 5 years and get our partners together again and to see where we are, it's going to take a lot of tracking. It's going to take a lot of, I guess, joint togetherness from everybody to get all the information together. So I want to ask Debbie to come up and kind of go through the plan, and then we're going to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Judy, could you put up the presentation? The process for developing a plan, John has gone through. If the plan is adopted, then we will start on implementation efforts, which is another long process that I'll go into a little bit more in depth later on. But what this is a community plan. As John said, the county already has an energy plan, and this is meant to be comprehensive. It's to address community, environment, and economic concerns. And it recognizes that all of those elements are interrelated. And it's developed to guide not just the county government's efforts, but the community's as a whole's efforts for the next 5 years. What it's meant to do is to partner with existing organizations to try to build off existing programs to gain momentum and be more efficient and reach our goals more quickly. It's built around 14 key goals here. The societal goals are in red. Our environmental goals are in green, and our economic goals are listed in blue there. Each one of these goals has a subset of objectives, and those objectives provided guidance towards development of strategies so that we could accomplish those goals. And we have what we call worksheets for each goal, which I'll go into depth a little bit more later on, but it has recommendations on how to reach each one of those. The plan is basically in 4 sections. The first section presents the purpose of the plan and introduces the idea of sustainability. It introduces our vision and mission statements, and then also outlines the 14 goals and their objectives. The second section discusses how the plan was developed and offers key definitions, and also discusses how the strategies were prioritized. Once we developed our strategies, the partners helped us prioritize them, and we did sort those based on cost, ease of implementation, and potential benefits, and had those either as things that could be accomplished in the span of this 5-year plan, or something that would be a more long-term goal. The third section is the real meat of the plan, and that's the worksheets for each goal. And then the fourth section presents those long-term strategies with recommendations for implementation as funding and other impediments as funding is available and other impediments are reduced. And it does have a recommendation for an annual reporting process and an update of the plan in 5 years. how we got there. And here is our worksheet for safe, low-crime communities out of the plan. And as I said, each one of the goals has a worksheet similar to this. The purpose of the worksheets are to help guide implementation. So under each goal, there's a list of our objectives. Then there's a section on indicators. And what we've done with the help of our partners and the community is to identify indicators which would help us monitor our progress through time. These are things that are currently being measured, and we were able to establish our current status, and so we have a baseline from where we are starting now. And then for each indicator, we have listed outcomes that we those could be a trend or a number, but what our desired outcome would be. And then there is a section on recommended strategies, and those are how to achieve those goals and the goal and objectives in the next 5 years. And those strategies could be anything from projects to policies, programs, education, outreach. And the next step, if the plan is adopted, would be implementation. This plan would require commitment across the county departments from our sustainability partners, many outside organizations, and the community at large. The planning department would take the lead in this. We would form a team, an interdepartmental team with folks from the county staff that would help us also identify potential partners and other organizations that already have ongoing programs that we could piggyback with. We would prioritize the strategies and develop an action plan and a timeline for implementation of the strategies. We foresee an annual monitoring report, and then an update in 5 years. May I answer any questions for you now?
What I like about it is the broad breadth of folks who were involved and how it intertwines the departments within the county. I'm looking at, just for example, the education piece of it, and it's unbelievable to me that not only the breadth that you followed, but the intent with how you went into each goal so strategically. I mean, it's incredible, the breadth of it, and I know it's a tremendous amount of work. And thank you so much.
What I'd like to do maybe here is, just for the record, so people know who sort of helped put this thing together. I'm gonna call these names out. If that's all right, John. Is that all right? We had Jamie Agger from the Hickory Nut Farm Group, Mike Buttram with the Asheville Board of Realtors, Kit Kramer, President and CEO of Asheville Chamber of Commerce, Vicki Heidinger, Executive Director, Community Action Opportunities, Ms. Marilyn Huff of Huff's Associates, Chris Joel, Executive Director of Asheville Design Center, J. Craig Madison, well now it's Craig Madison LLC, but he was at that time president of the Grove Park Inn, Brian Moore, Director of Planning and Public Relations and Mission Health, Reverend L.C. Ray, co-founder and CEO, One Youth at a Time, Carl Silverstein, Executive Director of the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, and the Vice Chairman of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners, Jay Swain, Division Engineer, North Carolina Department of Transportation, Suzanne Swanger, Assistant Superintendent of Buncombe County Schools, Martha Thompson, Community Relations Manager, Progress Energy, and Phyllis Van Hoy, Executive Director, Business Development, Incubation, Asheville-Buncombe Technical Community College. Folks, a lot of you know some of those folks, but every one of them, each and every one of them had something to say. They did not sit there like knots on the log. They all had some input to the group. It was good. Good bunch. Good bunch.
Yes, they were.
And I want to also say, I happened to take this to the Board of Health meeting the other night, and there were folks around the table who wanted a copy of it. They said it looks like a coffee table book, something like you have a book about Asheville that you'd put on your table. They said, this is beautiful, and we would really like a copy of it. And I'd like for our folks to know that it is on the web. You can pull it up, but it really is a beautiful piece of work. And unlike a coffee table book, which would just be laying around somewhere, this is something that we will implement and work on. It's a living document, so it's great.
Thank you.
I do have a
I'm
question.
sorry.
Because I think it's a great document and one that is really important for our county and our community. The implementation part, I'm just reading through some of the things that in this back section about developing a process, for example, for rental housing to be inspected on a biannual basis to ensure basic housing code issues are compliant. Do we have somebody already doing that? Or my question is, are there too many things that in the implementation part that are going to take more people than we have available? Is that a good question or not?
What we are intending is not to start new programs and have additional expenses, but to do what we can within our departments ourselves, but also to partner with outside organizations when possible and their programs.
Okay.
Well, I think I've done a great service for this board in order to determine, I mean, I really see this as our kind of our new strategic plan, really, and we can build on that in terms of going forward. And I think in these times when resources are tight, I think this could be hugely valuable for community groups, kind of when they're instead of everybody having to do a strategic plan on their own. I mean, they need to obviously tailor their work. But this really can kind of, we can hold this up and say, this is what our entire community is working on, and how does this group fit in, and how does that group fit in, and we can, it's a nice framework for a lot of folks in our community from a lot of different arenas. So, long time coming, and that is a lot of meetings. That's a lot of talking, but I think y'all really delivered. So, thank you. I'm excited. Second thing I'm excited about today.
That's great, I agree. I think we got to have a target to know if we're hitting the bullseye, and we got to have some specifics so that we know if we're getting there. And you've done with the indicators and outcomes and strategies. We can call you back in and see how we're doing, if we're making it or not. If we're not making it, we need to explain to the public why we're not making it.
Do we need a motion to adopt the sustainability plan?
We do.
I so move.
I second that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Bailey, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Vote was 4-0 today. And Commissioner Stanley was out when we voted. Next up.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
both.
you.
Great
Thank you.
work. You're right, a lot of time, and we appreciate that. Next up, we have Dr. Green is going to give us our budget message for the next fiscal year. Dr. Green?
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, it is indeed my pleasure and my privilege to present the 2013 budget. This is a budget that becomes effective on July the 1st of 12 and will run through June 30th of 13. Our last 36 months have been strikingly different than the decade we had before that. We experienced a steep plunge in the economy in 2008, saw that continue in 2009. So at that time, we saw major reductions in our revenue streams, and we experienced some tremendous caseload increases in many of our departments. As each of you know, when we have a downturn in the economy, there's a great increase in our service demands. So our challenge as the recession took hold was to manage this reduction in revenue while at the same time we were balancing the increase in caseloads. So during this roller coaster ride, and it certainly felt like a roller coaster ride, we followed three guiding principles. We focused on core services, and we try to very consistently define core services as those things that we're required to provide or required to make sure are available in the community. And we have realigned existing resources to meet priority needs without raising the property tax rate. And third, we've tried to maintain our long-term planning focus because soon, we hope, this passes. We don't know. And when you compare it to a roller coaster ride, you may start and end at the same place on a roller coaster ride, but it's a heck of a trip from beginning to end. I mean, there's times you scream, there's times you laugh, there's times you think, oh my gosh, I'll never get on this ride again, and times you get right back off and want to ride again. So it's an interesting trip. So a lot does happen in the course of that trip. So without raising the property tax rate, we needed to find a way to use funds that were already committed to meet changes in our economy. Those included serving the ever-increasing human service caseload, covering public safety call increases, and ensuring that we maintained funding for education. And the result is a budget that's very little change in total from last year, but it's accomplished with a lot of ups and downs and changes internal to the budget. I do think it's hard to predict where the economy goes from here. You know, from a global perspective, they say we're many years from recovery. Overall, I do consider myself a very optimistic person, and I have to tell you that I'm cautious about recovery. We've seen some improvements in our revenues. However, we're a long way from the pre-recession levels, and I'm not sure we reach those pre-recession levels for many years, if we reach them at all. Many people estimate that we have 4 to 6 more really tough years to go before we actually begin to see some stability. I do want to say I'm really proud of our workforce. I think we have a great work ethic, not just in our workforce, but in our community. And I think we also have a great culture in Buncombe County government. We work to do the right thing for our citizens. I think that we're nimble. I think we adjust to the programming needs to our emerging issues and needs. We always look for the best answers, and sometimes the best answers aren't the most popular answers. We often hear that we should run government like a business, and I think we do employ many solid business practices in our day-to-day work. We contract or expand partnerships with the private sector when and where it makes good business sense. We're always looking to either reduce cost or to increase the level of service that's provided if we continue the current investment level. We do a lot more with technology. This helps us do more with less staff and to have data more readily available at our fingertips. We've worked diligently for a number of years to have data available through technology as opposed to having a paper somewhere that you've got to go hunt. We pay for assets over the useful life of the asset, and we've taken advantage of lower construction costs and the lower interest rates over the last few years. I do think it's very important, too, that the construction work that we've done has kept our citizens working. As a phrase that y'all have used is we've kept boots on the ground. So we've done a lot more than just meet the needs that we'll have in our facilities. We've also kept people working during this period of time. We have tiered benefit plans to reduce long-run cost. We have a really solid employee wellness program in place to support our employees. And this year, I'm really happy to say that the city joins us in using Blue Cross Blue Shield as our third-party administrator. They brought the proposal to the City Council at the end of April, and the major reasons for the change were the deep network discounts that we've experienced and the expanded network access. And just as an aside, I do want to say that we're also working very closely with the city on how we go forward managing Pack Square Park and coordinating our Greenway plans. So there's a lot in place as we move forward. We do take many steps to keep expenses in line with our current fiscal realities. I think we're really good at identifying and eliminating unnecessary procedures, speeding up processes, eliminating silos, and saving dollars. Change is a way of life for us. It's not an event. It's an everyday it's how life happens for us every day. Our departments are really very, very good at figuring out how to work together to meet the needs that we see as the community changes. I do think we take ownership for accomplishing some very specific results, and we make choices with really clear intentions. We can talk about process all day, and we do talk about process a lot, but our citizens expect and they understand getting results. That's what they want to see from us. So when we get new information, and we're blessed to have very creative staff who knows how to take this new information and incorporate it into the decision-making process to move us ahead as an organization. I do think we are very consistent in our focus on core services and meeting the needs of the citizens that we serve. Our bottom line has always been, 1, to focus on the desired outcome, 2, to change processes to be more effective, 3, to figure out how to become more efficient, 4, to identify and remove bottlenecks, next to identify limiting factors, and finally to find the best way, place, or organization to get the desired result at the lowest cost. The world of work is changing really fast, faster than we ever imagined. And changes in our current work world are happening at a rate that doesn't afford our organization or any other organization the luxury of managing one major change or one major problem at a time. It's an everyday event when you serve thousands of citizens every day. I do want to take a minute and recognize our department directors that are here in the audience with us tonight. So if they'll stand, and they hate to do this, I don't know, that includes those of you up here too. I want to tell you that these are the folks that are on the ground serving the citizens every day, or that are supporting these departments that serve the citizens. They do a great job. I consider it a blessing to work with these folks and have them be part of my life on a day-to-day basis. I think we run a good organization, and we owe it to these folks. And please give them a round of applause. We are blessed to have these department leaders that focus on how we use our limited resources to achieve many of our unlimited wants and needs. Being an arm of the state and the federal government, we all know what it feels like to live in an environment where the resources can be changed with a vote or stroke of a pen, and the wants, needs, or requirements can be changed equally as easy. So we have to be alert to know what's going on at the state and the national level. I often say that we have 2 customers for each of our services. One that's receiving the service and may or may not want it, and others that are happy about the service being provided. So if I moved outside of the county government to give you a couple of examples, I'd say, if you use the highway patrol and they pull you over on the side of the road, I pretty much guarantee you're not interested in the service they're going to provide you in the next few minutes. But if you were the person that watched the speeding or the erratic driving, or might have been the victim of an accident, you're delighted that that service is there. If I move inside our organization, the person we've just booked into the detention center really doesn't want to be there. But most of us feel safer when an accused criminal is detained until we know the status of what their behavior is going to be. So there's always 2 sides to every story. And we recognize that as a staff, and in the services we provide every day, we try to keep in balance, that there are always more than one side, many sides to a story. Tonight, I do want to share a sampling of our services in a video that Kathy Hughes and Anthony Perrone prepared, and I think it'll give citizens a really good overview of the array of services that we do provide. And so it's about a 2-3 minute video. So if we can fire that up, Judy.
Good job, Madam Clerk.
You can see that in a lot shorter time than we can talk about all those things. So Judy needs just a second to bring the PowerPoint up, and then we'll start talking about the details of our budget. Whenever you're... Okay, this is our fiscal year 2012-2013 budget. And they tell me this jumps a little bit. This is a $337,702,000 budget, which is roughly a 1% increase over the 2012 budget. The budget was prepared using our current 52.5-cent tax rate. And to give you a little information on our tax rate history, we have a long history of setting a rate when we do a reappraisal and holding that rate until we reappraise property again. In 2007, we dropped our tax rate from 59 cents down to 53 cents, and then in 2008 dropped it a half cent again. But you can see a real pattern and a lot of stability in the rate that we use, and our citizens being able to depend on us not moving the rate around on a regular basis. We've compared ourselves to the big urban counties. At the bottom, you can see our rate as compared to the average of the other 9 counties, and I think we do a really good job of holding our rate lower than most of these counties. We are the 7th largest of North Carolina's 100 counties, and we do compare very favorably in the urban counties. You can also see that when you take just the top 10 counties, we are second from bottom on the tax rate. Let's talk about where our money comes from. You know, we are created by the state, and we provide many services in this state as a county that are provided by states and other counties. Our revenue streams are fairly limited. It's what they allow us to have is what we can levy. So 57% of our revenues come from property tax. That's our largest revenue stream. That's followed by intergovernmental revenues at 16%, which primarily fund human services and Medicaid services. Sales tax rounds out the top 3 of the revenue streams at 11%. So just a minute about our assessed valuation and our property tax. With a stable rate and very little growth in the tax base, property tax has changed very little in the most recent economic downturn. We are projecting this year an 0.8% increase in the base for 2013. A couple of changes are going to take place in the coming years. We do have some changes I'm going to talk about that we will be having to deal with in the next 2 or 3 years. In July of 2013, we will begin the combined registration and property tax collection, and DMV will be managing that service for us. North Carolina was the only state that was collecting vehicle property tax in arrears, so that changes on July the 1st of 2013. It's been a many-year process to get from us billing 4 months in arrears to now starting in July, and that actually will start in this next fiscal year in March. We will start the transition for the July implementation date, so people will have to pay their property tax when they get their tag at DMV, and all that will be done at DMV.
Can I ask a quick question? So it'll be staggered from really going forward, right? Whenever you get your tag, because they've staggered the tags, right?
Actually, when you get your tag won't change. It's just that when you go get your tag, you will also pay your property tax instead of getting your property tax bill 4 months later.
Okay.
So, and that's what they do in other states. It's just that instead of paying $28, you'll be paying $28 plus your property tax on the vehicle.
Oh, okay. But it's just for the vehicle, though? It's not
just the vehicles. Okay. Just the vehicles. Yeah, not personal property or real estate.
That's a very unique way to do that. Okay.
No, it's DMV. I mean, that's the largest number of our tax bills going out, but probably the most difficult to collect also. We are seeing some recovery when we talk about real estate at the lower end of our market, but it certainly appears as we watch month to month that the higher end market is still seeking a new low. We have not hit the low with as higher end properties have lost their value. So we will in the coming weeks be bringing you a schedule of values and ask you to have us do the reappraisal effective January of 2013. The second revenue stream I want to talk about is sales tax. You can see in this is the complete amount of sales tax we we collect. In 2009, it was 36 million and dropped down to 27 million or 28 million, and we are expecting some increase of about 6% in that revenue stream in the coming year. We're basing that on 12 months of actual receipts. And all of this is before distribution. I want to talk a little bit about the different revenue streams in sales tax, what's happened, and the things that we are going to experience with that in the next couple of years. If you look at this graph, each color block is a different source of sales tax. We call them articles because that's what they were called when they adopted them, and that put the sales tax in place. And I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the blue block because I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. If you'll notice, that was only there the first year. It had been there it had been there some years before that, not many. But that is a block of sales tax that we made a trade for a few years ago. But this does show the changes over the last 5 years on our sales tax revenue. It's a revenue stream that will first experience a downturn, and when it starts to turn, you feel like we're beginning to see an upturn in the economy. Sales tax is made up of a lot of moving pieces, though. Article 40 is a 0.5% sales tax that was authorized in 1983. Now, 30% of the county's share of that, of those proceeds, is set aside for school capital, and we refer to that usually as current capital because it's equipment. It's not bricks and mortar. It's equipment and things that usually cost less than $100,000. Article 42 is a 0.5% that was authorized in 1986, and 60% of our portion of that is set aside for school capital. You'll see those on your spreadsheet when you look at the revenue for the school systems. Article 44 is a 0.5% sales tax that was authorized in 2001 to replace repealed reimbursements. During the dot-com recession, we all felt, whether you were any local government, but counties and municipalities both felt a major hit when the state took our reimbursement revenues. And those were revenues that we were given when the state made a change in the tax law. And they lost the revenue stream, so they put some legislation in to make counties and municipalities whole. But during that downturn in the economy in 2001, 2002, they took those reimbursements, and through a lot of negotiations with the League of Municipalities and State Association County Commissioners, and I'm sure you remember those, Mr. Stanley, very well, we were able to negotiate getting a revenue stream, and that was 0.5% of sales tax. Article 44 has had an interesting history for such a short life. We got it in 2001, and in 2007 and 8, we traded it away. There was a period where, up until 2008, the counties had to pay a percentage of the claims cost on our Medicaid patients. It was about 6% of the cost, and we saw our budgets going up $1.5 million a year. That was true across the state, and had been looking for a long time as counties to make a trade with the state and not have that expense that we just really had no control over. So then in 2008, we traded away Article 44, so state kept the revenue stream, and they took our Medicaid expenses. It was a great trade. If they'd had any idea we were going to have a downturn in the economy, I am sure that they would have waited a while to do that. Our budget today would be $6 million higher had we continued with Medicaid claims expense. So that was a short-lived but very interesting sales tax to have received. Article 39 was authorized. It's a 1% sales tax that was authorized in 1971, and in 1983, 50% of that was set aside for school capital, only in Buncombe County, not in the other 99 counties, but only in Buncombe County. It was set aside for bricks and mortar, and we manage that through what we call the School Capital Commission Fund. And it really has helped us meet our school capital needs in a way that has taken us from having a really bad reputation in the nation to a very good reputation in the nation and the state.
And all the other counties get it. Ours is just particularly
Ours is restricted.
designed,
Yeah, it is. It's restricted for school capital, and
we like that.
Yeah. It really has helped us meet the need and kept our negotiations about educating our students and how we invest there. The interesting thing about Article 40, 42, 39, and 44 is the municipalities received a share of that. And when we traded Article 44 away, their share of that didn't go away. So when we turn this economy around, and hopefully in a couple of years we'll see that, if you look back at this graph, I can take us back there and not get us too far. If you look back at this graph in 2009 and you look at what we're projecting in 2013, there's a point that we have to start sharing some of our proceeds from other sales tax to keep the municipalities whole. I think that we will see that in the next 2 years, so that we actually have to start sharing that. Department of Revenue will calculate that, they'll do the distribution, but they will withhold what's due to the municipalities from our Article 39. So just so when we stand here in 2 years and say, time has come, it really is a very complicated stream that got us to this point. But it is coming, and I don't think it'll be as long as they might have anticipated a couple of years ago.
So that's for all 6 municipalities within Buncombe County? Is that
yes.
Right? And is it based on population, or is it based on
actually in Buncombe County we use what's called the ad valorem method for sales tax distribution, which means any district or organization that taxes, which would include fire districts, city schools, and municipalities in the county, they get a proportionate share based on the amount of the levy and their percentage. Their levy is a percentage of all levies. It's a complicated formula. And in 2007, the General Assembly authorized a 1/4% sales tax that does not have a municipal share, but it did require a referendum, and that is the referendum that we passed in November for AB Tech. Our departments also have worked very hard to find other revenue streams, and we've seen a very, very nice increase in our detention center revenues through the efforts of Major Monty Albus and Sheriff Duncan. And because we do the right thing for our inmates and get them into the appropriate programs, we've had the capacity to house federal inmates for neighboring counties, and then we had the unique opportunity, I guess we'll call it an opportunity, up until January we had to house state inmates that were sentenced for 90 days or less. Starting in January, we had to house those from the 91st to the 180th day, but they do pay us to do that. So what you see here is only a half a year of that revenue, but we're projecting. They've done a great job of enhancing the revenues and using the capacity that we have really, really well. And I think they're an example of departments using whatever resource we can find available to us to help offset costs for our citizens. Talking just a minute, we'll move from, that's where we get the money. And now let's talk about how we spend the money. We continue to see our core services, which are education, human service, and public safety, consume over 80% of our budget. There are some changes in this year's budget that got shifted, where we've had to shift around resources in order to meet these. And the highlights of those are, because of some cuts at the federal level, some capping of some funds, our net county costs related to some of our social service programs are going up about $2.5 million. Those are strictly federal changes. And you don't get an option about not providing the service anymore. You still have to provide it, but that revenue stream has been cut. We work pretty diligently to get new jobs, and we do offer incentives, but the time has come that we do need to pay Linamar next year before the end of the calendar year, and that's an increase of $2.5 million in the budget. We will be selling Linamar, the Volvo building that we bought. We'll be selling them that for $8 million, but we've had to invest in order to buy that building, so that does come back as a revenue stream. As we think about fiscal year 14, we do have some one-time expenses that will help offset that, the use of that one-time revenue. For elections, we are seeing a $700,000 increase in net county cost. Two reasons. One, we are going to have a runoff in July, and that's about $100,000. And the other thing is we just don't get any revenue for general elections. We get them in the odd years for municipal elections, but we don't get any revenue for the general election. Reappraisal, we've included $200,000 in expense. Another federal requirement that we've been in here several times to talk about is the federal requirement to narrow band our radio system. And we're having to add some towers, new subscriber units, an entirely new radio system that I'll be talking about when we get to Capitol, but that does increase our budget. We've committed to some civic center improvements, and if you went to the Southern Conference, it's just phenomenal. And with just the cost of fuel and utility, we are increasing our budget. We got into a bit of a bind this year with that. So those are the major increases in our budget, and what we did was shift around to be able to manage some of those with the new revenues that we were getting from sales tax and property tax. It's helped us keep the budget at only a 1% increase. This budget does maintain funding levels for the county and city schools as a unit. It may be split different because of average daily membership and for AB Tech. And just as a point of reference, there are some locally funded positions at all three units of education that these are purely locally funded positions, in total 618 positions. And I do think, in just talking with our superintendents and our president at AB Tech, they're very, very grateful that we're maintaining the funding level that they're getting. Every year we do talk about our core services, our three core services that drive the majority of our budget: education, human service, and public safety. This graph shows you the total property tax we generate on the right, $152 million, as compared to the net county cost for those three core services at $157 million. Core services are $219 million, and expenses we're able to generate and pull down $62 million. That still means that our net county cost for those three core services are not covered by the property tax that we generate, so it takes other funding sources to completely cover that. And that's historically true. That's not a change. So some of the ways that we've managed our cost is through the smart partnerships that we have, through our technology improvements. We've done hiring freezes and hiring delays over time. Our departments have taken cuts for several of the last years in our budget. And we've moved our funding to community agencies to contracts so that we're actually buying a service, and I think that's helped us tremendously. We are doing this with fewer employees than we had 20 years ago. We always talk about full-time staff, and we are, you can see that line, we are down over 100 positions. But I will tell you, we looked at the temporary positions too, and we're down almost 400 temporary positions during this same time frame. And a lot of that's contracting out after school and some other programs like that that we funded, that we staffed with temporary programs, or temporary positions, excuse me. I want to look at our employee costs as a percentage of our overall budget. If you look at this, you can see the line that across the bottom. That's our salary and benefit costs for our employees. It's about a third of our total budget. And I think that having qualified staff and really good institutional wisdom helps us manage through what has been a really difficult time with the caseload increases. It's also this familiarity with our services that's helped bring out the creativity where we're constantly evaluating our processes and getting better and better at the services that we provide. And it also lets us readjust our services when we see a growing need in the community that may become an even bigger expense if we don't address it now. There is no change in benefits for employees. It still includes health insurance, longevity, 401k, FICA, and retirement. When I return on the 19th with the ordinance, I am going to ask you to do something. I'm going to ask you to reduce the benefit waiting period from 6 months down to 90 days. Make that effective with the new plan year on January 1st. This is consistent with the Affordable Care Act. I think that the legal challenges to that should be resolved by the time the new plan year starts, and 90 days is what that plan requires starting in 2014. We're asking you to implement that a year early, but that will be the standard across the nation, so we will ask you to do that when we return with the ordinance on the 19th. I want to show you a little bit of our caseload growth so you can see what we're having to manage. This is persons served by DSS programs. You can see a tremendous growth in the caseload between 2007 and 2011, and we're not seeing a slowing down in that growth or a dropping off of that service level at this point. Here's the breakdown between the economic services clients, which are a lot of the food assistants, and our social work service clients. And the severity of the cases, I think, would it be safe to say, is much more severe now than what we were experiencing prior to the recession. But you can see there's growth in both types of these services. If you look just at food assistance, which we spoke to you many times about, the number of people on food assistance has more than tripled in the last 12 years, and it is a huge economic impact. We talk about our budget being $337 million, but what I will tell you is when you look at all that we leverage into this community, we have just shy of $1 billion impact on the community because we leverage in a lot for food assistance and for Medicaid. Looking at the calls for service that we're experiencing in the Sheriff's Department, the Sheriff was here a couple of weeks ago to talk about this. You can see a steady growth. The bar on our right represents a third of the year. At the rate we're going, you're going to see a significant increase in the caseload for 2012, the calendar year 12. Two things I want to point out to you. We measure everything we do. We know the impact we're having on the community, and we know the cost of having that impact. So at any point in time, we can produce the information so people can understand what the community needs are and how they're driving what we're having to do here. I want to shift for a minute to facility and capital planning. You heard from Donna about what we are financing, but I want to just bring you up to date on some of the things that are in progress right now. The new Cassidian equipment, which is the $6 million donation that we received, it's a multinational company that really wanted to test their equipment in this particular terrain. And it dovetailed nicely with the change to the narrow banding. This is the equipment that's being donated to us. It's all of the hardware that runs the radio equipment. Now, in order to accomplish the narrow banding, we have also had to increase the number of towers that we have. So, and that's what's driving our need to borrow money. We've had to add 7 new towers, and it's an interesting process. You have to have line of sight communication with these. I've never understood exactly how waves communicate with one another, but I can assure you they do, and and it's somewhat expensive to make that happen. But here's our Lees Creek Tower, the microwave that's hanging on there. We've had to buy microwaves, and we've had to replace some towers. We've had to buy some towers that were out there too. We upgraded our landfill tower, and when you think about that being in the north end of the county, when we brought that online, it improved radio service in the south end of the county. So there's where you sit it doesn't always limit where it improves the service. We are building a tower in Broad River and Upper Hominy. We are leasing space to do towers in Barnardsville, Swannanoa, and I'm going to forget something. I know I am, Elk Mountain. But you can see it takes a while to get these done and to have access roads into these towers because they are on tops of mountains. And we're trying to be very environmentally sensitive as we do this. Okay, and about 2 weeks ago, we opened the Life Safety Edition, which is it's an eight-story facility. It's attached to the courthouse. It includes 4 elevators, restrooms on every floor, and 2 dual staircases. For those of you who've been on the board for a while, you'll remember when the Department of Revenue said, do not come back to us and ask to renovate this courthouse anymore until you have a second means of egress. Well, we have a second means of egress, and in the course of this, we've also taken the is it 11, 12, and 13? 10, 11, 12 that we've got. We've renovated those floors, and we've moved probation out of lease space and into this space. They only moved about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3. So we're utilizing the vacated space that used to be an old jail, and we did try to take each of you through that space when it was being demolished, and it was amazing. As they cut the steel out, just the smell that you could tell every day when you're in there. And we did all this at night, so we didn't disrupt court. Courts operated every day, and they were great to work with us. But we were able to take out all the steel, and we recycled that. And now we have office space up there. The 14th and 15th floor is not yet complete, but that is coming. If you look at the lower portion of the Life Safety Edition, you can see where we didn't cover it with the same rock or stone. That is where the new facility will attach to this building. But this is what we accomplished with the Life Safety Editions. The new elevators, it's just so light and nice. And we've had a lot of comments. People who don't say a lot of things nice sometimes have said, we love the elevators. I've been in that building 40 years, and it's just now all of a sudden the elevator moves. So they're very happy about that. This is a real, if you hadn't been over there, it's worth going to see. The phase 2 that Donna talked about earlier is the court building that you see to the left of this. It will attach to the Life Safety Edition in the courthouse. This is 118,000 square feet building, $45 million. It'll connect to the existing courthouse and to the jail so that we can move inmates around. A courthouse is a fairly unique building because you have to have a lot of security measures in it to move inmates around and to actually make sure that we protect the citizens that are in there and we protect the people who work there. But if you look at this, this is what it will look like. And if you are standing, if you're across the street on the parking deck looking down, that's where it's going to be located. They have started that, the work on that site. It's a 24-month build process, but it's going to look great when it's done. And just a different shot of that. The other thing that we are finishing up is the public safety training facility. Here you see the apparatus and burn buildings, the construction that we are going back to borrow for. If you look, the apparatus building it does have some classroom space in it, and if you look at the burn buildings, we literally will set them on fire and train. The other thing that is complete, and I could not find a way to get this all in one picture, so if you just imagine driving on up through here, that is our road, that's our course, our driving course, and it includes the ability to train for residential driving, for driving over railroad tracks, and for just open course driving. Now we affectionately call it the runway because there's one open course thing that's just a long, looks like a landing strip. We are completing 35 Woodfin in the basement. We're completing some space for human services. That will be completed in just the next few months. This weekend we are paving the lots at Cox and Woodfin so that as we start to complete these, both of those buildings will be completely finished and will be in that space by the end of the calendar year. The other place that we're completing is the third floor of our admin building. Currently it houses Finance, Human Resources, and Human Service Administration. That third floor will house county administration and the new boardroom. We expect that to be done in about 120 days. It's taken a while to rework some of the window problems that we had. I want to go back and revisit some of the things that Donna was talking about. This is the historical cost on our assets in the left-hand column. That's $850 million. It will be going to $929 million with this new issue that we've asked you to approve. The right-hand side is the outstanding debt that we have, $274 million. That will be going to $360 million. That's saying that basically we have 39% of the value financed. And I tried to come up with the way that most of us would view our own checkbooks to compare that. And it's like saying if you buy a $250,000 house, you're carrying roughly, and you have the same ratio we have, you're carrying a little less than a $100,000 mortgage on it. So I think we're well leveraged, and if you put it in that comparison, I think you can see that we have taken advantage of good interest rates. We are paying for the asset over the useful life of the asset, and right now we're experiencing really good both construction costs and interest rates. The debt.
Wanda, when you give that, you're talking about everything collectively, like
everything
all
collective.
The schools, just kind of apples and apples. Okay.
And that's because we finance all of those. We have to provide them.
Right.
And frankly, since we also have ownership on some of those buildings while the debt's being paid. If you look at the outstanding principal balance, you can see that we do pay off pretty quickly. That's one of the things that gives us a good bond rating. It's also what lets us plan for the future when you look at our capital plan. When you look at the debt we're carrying, you go here and you look at the debt service that we're paying, we know today what kind of capacity we're going to have. If we kept our debt service static, we know what kind of capacity we're going to have in future years to finance new things that are going to come up, whether it's a greenway, whether it's a pool, whatever it is that is on your capital plan that you want to finance. We know when we can begin to build some of those things if you want to hold your debt service at those levels. And this is just everything combined, similar to Donna's chart. 48% of our debt is for education, 34% is for public safety, and then everything else is single digits. But those are the two big things that drive our capital expenditures. And if you think about where we have to house inmates and courts, and even though courts are a part of the state, you do have to provide those facilities. So I think our debt load is very manageable. If you put it in comparison to your own mortgage, I think it's very reasonable. And we will be issuing debt for AB Tech, about $60 million. We are not going to issue the whole $179 million that would get generated. And in issuing debt for a portion of it, you can see the debt we'll have to pay, because it is hard to save enough to build an allied health building, build a classroom building at the public safety training facility, and to buy 93 Victoria, which is available right now. So we borrow those monies, and you can see as the bars begin to drop, the same amount of sales tax will be generated, so you start to build some capacity for pay-as-you-go projects. And that's how we've planned to deal with the other projects going forward, is pay for them in full as they come on. We have some critical path issues. We have to get some of the work done first before we can start renovating some of the other buildings. Okay. Back to comparing our debt load to the large urban counties, which is the blue line, and then the AAA rated counties. Our debt load is significantly below those other large counties and viewed very favorably by the rating agencies. This is always the one that's hardest to explain. Every year we do appropriate fund balance, and we do take it as a major challenge to figure out how we're going to save that. We feel very, very confident that we're going to finish 12 without spending the $7.7 million we appropriated. We are asking you to appropriate $8.3 million, almost $8.4 million in 2013. One of the things I need to explain is our external auditors have required us to take 3 of our non-general funds and collapse them into the general fund, which makes $575,000 difference in that $8.3 million. I had to go back through that myself today to get it. So the real difference in what we appropriated in the general fund, the way it stood last year, and the general fund, if we're comparing exactly the same thing, is $89,000. The challenge starts now. It doesn't start July 1st.
So if you didn't have to do that funky accounting thing, it would just be $89,000?
$89,000. And I truly had to go back this morning and go through that in detail myself after I looked at all the things that drove the changes. The challenge starts while we're putting the budget together to look historically at where we saved money and try to figure out where we can save money going forward. I feel really confident that we'll save that in 2013, and I'm standing here telling you I am very confident we'll find a way. If you ask me what it is today, I'm not sure I can tell you. But historically, if we have a good winter, you save some on utility costs. If our departments are always good and very conservative, looking to save as they go along. They're very frugal about what they'll spend, and if they can do without it, they do without it. We also set tax rates for the fire tax districts. There's 26 districts. The tax rates range from 7.5 to 15 cents. We have one that initially has submitted a request for an increase, but they are rethinking that, and I hope that I'll have good news for you when we return on the 16th. The other thing, and this is hard to read, but if you pull up the agenda, there's an attachment called Community Development Funding. More and more, we just, as a local government, don't have the resources to be all things to all people, but each year we do receive a lot of requests for funding that exceed our revenue potential at the current levels. So this year there's a long list of needs that I will ask y'all to think through how you want us to include those in the budget, and we'll await some further instructions on those. Some of them are time sensitive and others are not quite as time sensitive. We have set the public hearing for June the 5th. It will occur in the meeting that starts at 4:30. We will ask you to consider, when we return on the 19th, using the combined core service document, which really tells you what we're required by law, general statute, to do or make sure is done, and the sustainability plan that you just heard about, to use those as our guiding documents as we look at how we invest money and articulate to everyone the return on investment we're getting. So when we return on the 19th, we will ask you to instruct us to use those documents going forward. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize a couple of people before we actually take questions. Our finance staff in our departments work really diligently with their directors to bring us a budget. And they bring that to us in the November to January or February timeframe, depending on what piece of the budget it is. But I want to thank and recognize Diane Price, so you can stand up, and Autumn Livers. Autumn got married. I have to think about her last name, Livers. And while Sharon Stosich is not here, I want to thank her too. I know they're all glad to get to this point in the process so that we can move on and bring this thing to closure. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Public hearing on it will be June 5th.
Okay.
And any questions that you have. My voice held out too. I've worked on that.
Good job.
Tell you.
I just have a couple of quick things, because that was really thorough and covered a lot. And so just kind of out of curiosity before that, so that you were going to say something about the one-time $8 million Linamar, because so that'll be an infusion of cash this year, but we'll have to figure that out next year.
We
so we're going to be
will.
like Scarlett O'Hara.
Yeah, we don't totally wait to worry about it then. Some of the things that we had, like elections, reappraisal, the Linamar payment, some of those, more than half of that are one-time expenses that we'll be able to recapture and keep that from being as big a problem in 14.
Okay, great. So that was my second question. So that little list, the more than half of them are one-time expenses as well. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
Super. So in terms of kind of just the projected sales, property taxes, because I'm assuming, so what we've projected, is that going to be in line of what we've collected this year, or will it be a little less than what will come in? Or
we expect it to be a little more than what we've collected this year. Let me take a look at that. It's up about $1.3 million.
From actual to next year's budget? From
budget to budget.
So that's what I was curious about, though. I was just curious about like how the actual, we anticipate that coming.
And I'll get you the actuals on that, and I'll have that to answer it.
That'd be great. That'd be great. And I'm just curious about the sales tax in that regard too. So
yeah, sales tax is we keep that 12-month rolling. So what we're projecting, we'll have one more month of newer information when we get back in June. Other than that,
so we project next year more based on the actuals of this year.
The 12-month actual, yes.
Yeah, like July. No?
Well, let's see. We've received April, so it would be May through April would have the 12 months there.
But the quarter, I mean, the comparable of where we are in the 12-month cycle.
It is.
Okay.
But it's paid while we get it monthly. It's 3 months old when we get it.
Right.
So you always hope it'll be a little bit better than you saw the year before for the same month.
Right. So I heard that you said that in terms of kind of what's included in the budget, in terms of personnel things, that there's not any additional benefit pieces. It's just a regular what we've got in our personnel manual. And I'm assuming we've factored in raises for our people next year.
We have not at this point factored in the raises because we really don't know what CPI will be. And so we take a look at that when December ends and see what we can do. It's another piece that we actually have to save.
So CPI this year was
3%.
3%. So did we historically just have to find that every year?
We do.
Okay.
For the balance of the year, we do.
All right. I think those are my three. And you also said that the school budgets are just pretty much what they asked for is the same as last year.
It is the same as last year. The thing that could happen is the average daily membership would change the split between city and county schools. They've been a long time without an increase, and I'm sure that I know we're all hoping to see some state increase in that too, but they recognize our financial challenges too.
Did that the federal mandated services, that 2.5 that now we've got to belly up and pay for, so that's going to be a recurring expense every year?
It's recurring, but it's also driven by caseload too. So if we see the economy turn, hopefully we see the caseload go down. And we have a certain portion of the administrative costs that we have to pay. This is primarily TANF.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll stop with my questions. I've got a few things I want to add, but I think this has been a very thorough presentation, and I learned a lot.
Okay. Any other questions?
And I don't know if there's a director that might like to add something either.
I don't have a question, but I think the one person that failed to be recognized is the great job that Dr. Green did to bring this to us. And I really think this presentation should be, I don't know if you could have required reading or looking or understanding by high school seniors or, you know, citizens of Buncombe County or something, but it's amazing the history and the information that you can get from this report that's been given today. I think the fact that we have the services we have, have kept the tax rate where it is. We've expanded where we need to expand through Ms. Stone's shop. We have. I actually did a little walkthrough to look at all the new facilities that are coming online, and we're out of rental property. I mean, we are just doing so many things. You know, the great libraries that we have, the great school systems that we have. I read thoroughly Dr. Baldwin's request and what they're going to do with the funding that they have. Asking no more funding from the county is just incredible. Everybody has a piece in what has happened here today, and Dr. Green presents it so nicely. But the fact that we have these department chairmen here, we have school representatives here, we have folks who buy into this, and the great service we do for our citizens, it makes me proud every day to be a part of Buncombe County government. And Dr. Green, thank you so much. It's wonderful.
Couldn't do it without them. They're great. And so are you. We appreciate the guidance we get from the board.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't have any questions because I think they've just done a bang-up job, and I wanted to say yay about the shift of the benefits moving from 180 to 90, but I would really like to propose that we take the health insurance to a 30-day waiting period. I was really very moved by the last employee presentation that we had, and it's a lot about recruitment, and I do feel that's going in the right direction from the 180 to 90, and that is what the Affordable Health Care Act, but I would like to see us move it to 30 days going forward. I think that will be a great recruitment tool, and I also kind of see it as a justice issue. It's obviously not been any secret to anybody that I've kind of struggled with, you know, all the whole pieces of trying to understand how we compare with other counties in terms of personnel benefits, and there's never been any question about the quality of work. I do have a proposal around the longevity payments going forward, which would be what I think would be a middle ground between, because we still have the three-tiered program where, you know, new people basically aren't able to be rewarded via benefits, and then people who've been here a long time can, which is great, and we've seen why that's important today. What I wanted to propose is that we cap longevity benefits at $3,000 a year at the maximum, and I think that kind of recognizes valuable service for an employee, but it also, I think it's just more in tune with what our citizens experience in their lives. And the final thing I wanted to kind of, as y'all all know, I could have a long list, but I'm just going to highlight three as kind of a compromise idea here. And the final one would be that kind of studying our salaries more and looking at the comparison with the Institute of Government's site. I think we did a tremendous job in getting in line quickly when we realized how out of line that was. But I think if we brought it down some more, that we would really be in where we need to be with comparable counties. And my proposal would be to move our county commissioner salaries down to $22,000. And the other thing I would say about that is that if it felt like that was a hardship, perhaps we could start it with the new board. So that could be up for discussion as well. We could, talk about starting at July 1 to get it in line, or we could kind of, when we have these additional board members, begin at the end. So I appreciate y'all being open to hearing those three suggestions. Obviously, for years I've struggled with them, and I recognize that people aren't necessarily in the same place, but I wanted to kind of propose that. And to recap, that would be the health insurance waiting period to be reduced to 30 days for new employees, cap longevity payments at $3,000 a year maximum, and to move our county commissioner salaries to cut them by about 17% is what it ends up being, and put it at $22,000. So I just kind of put that in the mix to figure out too, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Chen. All righty, any other comments about the budget? We will take public comment at our next meeting and look forward to that. Next order of business would be board appointments, Board of Health. Is there a nomination?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate little Billy McKelvey to go back on the Board of Health.
We need him.
Mr. McElworth has been nominated. Any other nominations? All those in favor of appointing Mr. McElworth, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Mr. McElworth is appointed by a 5-0 vote. Current vacancies include the Monterey Board of Adjustment. There's one vacancy from the ETJ. Monterey Planning and Zoning, one vacancy from the ETJ. Historic Resource Commission, 2 vacancies. Announcements. The next regular board meeting will be on June 5, beginning at 4:30 p.m. Commissioner meetings can be seen on BCTV, Charter Cable Channel 2, ATT Uverse Channel 99, live on buncombecounty.org during the meetings, or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. The official business of the county is concluded and will now have public comment. The time limit for any comment is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you may leave questions along with your name, address, phone number, and or email with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on matters during public comment. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of this commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire board. Any polling of board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and be respectful of everyone in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave, and the board reserves the right to deny public address on any subject previously presented to the commission. Mr. Freer, are we going to need a closed session tonight?
No closed session tonight, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then. We'll proceed with public comment. Any public comments? Yes, ma'am. I'm going to let Mr. Penley go first. You were already... Okay, you go up. You'll be next, though. He was up early. You come on up. You're fine. If you'll give your name, address, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Shirley Dozier. I live on Montford Avenue. I was wanting to speak about the $2 million that you were going to give to the Mountain Housing Opportunity, which I'm not for. But since you already voted on it, I won't get to say anything, I suspect. Mr. Gant, as I spoke to you last year in this public meeting, not privately, you said that the city of Asheville, you would send the attorney up there to talk with the city of Asheville about what they're doing to me and my family. And since Cliff and I are both over the age that we're senior citizens now, in other words. I'm going to have to ask you, since you know the situation, and I feel the attorney knows the situation, I'm going to have to ask you to ask the sheriff to maybe talk with us to try to have a grand jury investigation into what they've done to our property. Because, as we all know, I have a surveyor that surveyed all of our property, and he said everything they've done is illegal. So I would appreciate if you will have the sheriff to have.
If you don't mind, get me the information again, and I'll make sure we get to the proper authorities, ma'am.
Thank you so kindly.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Penland, I'm sorry you were up earlier, and we.
Commissioner and Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Aaron Penland. I'm from South Asheville area. I want to come and talk to you tonight about the groundwater contamination side of CTS on Mills Gap Road. First off, thank you for having the building taken down. It's really nice to drive by there and see that that is gone. But that's not the only problem that we're facing. Right now we're facing CTS is getting ready to take over the testing for EPA. CTS will be going around having new permission slips signed by the homeowners to allow them to come into their homes. More or less, they're forcing it down their throat to either take a filtration system that they will be providing, or they will no longer get monitoring of their well water. New homes have reported showing up with contaminants in their water. Contaminants keep moving. They're not stopping. Right now, what we're asking for is to take a look at having municipal waters ran to all the citizens that live in the area. What we just passed out to you is a petition that was signed by homeowners that live in the area. Right now, there are roughly about 110 homes, 110 families that are receiving quarterly testing by EPA. This testing is going to stop. Now we're going to be forced to listen to what CTS, to have CTS come to our homes, test our water, and after they've polluted the water, they want us to trust them to give the exact results and to tell whether the contaminants are in the water. We would like to see municipal waters ran. We've actually talked with the city, and the city has put a proposal out on one area on Chapel Hill Church Road and Gilmore Drive of roughly about $244,000 for those homes. They've got exact numbers of how much piping, how many fittings, meters, everything. What we'd like to see is them encompass the entire area for 1 mile radius around the plant, and to see the county work with the city. I know that there was a resolution passed that was saying that the county would pay for 50%. Well, the city is now saying that they will pay for 50% of the water hookups. So if you could look into that, we'd greatly appreciate it. And I know the people out there would feel much safer knowing that their families are drinking water that's not contaminated with cyanide, TCE, benzenes, hexavalent chromium, cancer-causing stuff that kills families, and there are a lot of people that have died from it and are getting sick or sicker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penland. Any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Yelton.
No. No, you can't go.
Don Yelton, and I told Mr. Baldwin a while ago these meetings are getting about as long and boring as a school board. And he kind of laughed on that one even. Some comments about some things that have happened tonight. This is just a smattering of comments. I would like to know the 600-some jobs that's reported that we provide for the school. Is that job equivalents or actual jobs? I think that's job equivalents, and I think there's some suspicion that money can be used for other things. Again, I would like to see where that money is going. I would like to also see what the teacher supplement is from Buncombe County and how that's given to each individual. I think we've had a problem getting that information, so I'm requesting it here in front of public. Appreciate the fact you're contracting out stuff, because I think that will save money. I think AB Tech could be could be the kitchen for AB CCM and also the kitchen for your Meals on Wheels. Why not have a degree over there in how to feed old people, because it's going to be a problem down the road if you think about the numbers. I see in the budget that our video sales tax went from $1.5 million to $1.57 million. And I'd like to ask for 1% of that, $150,000 for public access TV. That would sure help, I think, as far as informing the public. And the next question is, what is DMV going to get for handling the tax? One, I'm afraid for the state to touch anything, because every time they get it, they take a big percent out of it. I know they do on the tire fund. So I'd like to know how much they are going to, we need to know as citizens, so we can work on our state representatives about that. Because I'm just as hard on the Republicans as I am on the Democrats. And also, we talk about the rate, you know, our tax rate going down, down, down. Well, values were going up, up, up. So that chart's going to change. 333 Hollywood Road in Fairview. Lady's been receiving bottled waters ever since 2007. I called the county health department, and bless his heart, Mark didn't have any idea. I called the state out at Black Mountain. They didn't have any idea. I called the public relations lady in Raleigh with Diener, and she didn't have any idea. And I called her on 5-4, And then I called her yesterday, so I called her again today, and then I called her boss today, and I did get an email over there just a minute ago on my phone. So I'll have the answer to who is paying for that water, because they've been doing it since 2007, David. And I noticed that in their trash contract that it was stated that they had to have a 5% increase in labor to ask for a rate increase. I'm pretty sure that's what our attorney said. And they stood right here and said they had a 3% increase in rate increase. Don't get me wrong. I say they do need to go up because we know that diesel has really killed them. But they didn't justify it by the contract.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yelp. Any other comments? Ms. Landis?
I am Reverend Lisa Landis. Sorry to see that Holly stepped out because I'd like to tell her that she's the only one that I think is qualified to fill that position on this board. Okay, it's been a year. Yesterday was 1 year, May 14th, 2011, that the people lost their voice. And I feel that part of the reason was the corruption in this county that was being revealed. And I was arrested on November the 2nd, or I'm sorry, I was at a march on November the 2nd that I was arrested for on November the 5th. I am a citizen journalist. You can find me at GLOLady, GLOLADY, on the internet, one word. I am a citizen journalist that was arrested when I was covering an event. I was targeted and falsely arrested because I am very vocal on the corruption that is constantly being covered up. I fear for my life. I know that there were murders that are involved that are connected to the corruption. I hope and pray that everyone who is involved in the corruption will be prosecuted. So, now that I've gotten that out of my mind, that 1.5.7 or whatever for public access, the people want to speak. You know, we want a voice. That's a big problem. We want to communicate with the rest of the people in our community. We want to tell them the things that are going on, important things that they want to know. You know, obviously the people aren't getting all the truth around here. I'd like to also know, of the 14,821 inmates, how many of them were in there because they were homeless? You know, how many people are criminalized because they don't have a home? Because their jobs have been taken away, as mine was. Because my business was destroyed. Because my job was taken, because the people have no voice, because the people do not want, you know, to hear what the truth is. You know, the people, as in our elected officials, do not want to hear what the truth is because they are part of the cover-up. Now, the new jobs. If the $2.5 million that is given to Linamar were given to small businesses to hire new people in order to create more jobs, that to me makes a whole lot of sense because you're taking care of the people and not paying for more corporate to come in, more corporate greed that doesn't care about anything but profit. I am looking forward to the next hearing because my jury trial is on June the 4th. I'm going to prove my innocence, and then I'm going to prove that I was targeted and falsely arrested, and I will hold those accountable.
Thank you, Reverend Landis. Any other comments? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm going to ask you a question. Don't throw me out today. I got thrown out at the last budget message for telling the truth. So don't throw me out today. The truth is, the budget message wasn't presented as it should have been. Today, it was a beautiful budget message. It was what it ought to be each year. And if we only had it each year like this, we could understand it and make better choices, make better presentations to the community at large. I don't think that it ought to be beautiful, polished, and shine just on election year. And that's exactly what's happened. I'd like to see that you commissioners look into this comparison of other counties that's been proposed up here. These counties are much larger in population, square miles, and everything else. There's no comparison except for one or two or three, maybe. And when we compare ourselves to these folks, we ain't a Durham. We ain't a Durham County. You know how big that is? You know how much money they bring in a year? I mean, let's have apples and oranges. Let's have apples, not apples and oranges and tangerines and grapes. My concern is that the people are suffering, and you've heard that right here in Buncombe County, while Buncombe County is polishing themselves with loads of money. We have got loads of money. If you look back at 2010, you can see that we are sitting on $7 and $8 million a year coming in, not revenue neutral. I'm asking this board to look at revenue neutral and even lowering the rate. Now, if we can live like this for all these years and have the debt that we've got, and we can't lower the tax more than 5.5%, there's something wrong. We don't need to look like polished people. We need to be out here helping people. And I think these nice buildings are nice, but that's all it is a nice building. Now, how come the crime rate is going to rise as the new courthouse is beginning to be built? It's just almost a projection of setting it up for crime to be committed, or we're not doing our job of getting the ones in that is doing crime, one or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment? Mr. McQueen?
Good evening. My name is Tate McQueen. I'm an educator in Buncombe County at Charles D. Owen High School. I'm a resident of South Asheville. You guys are aware of the work that we've been doing with regard to CTS and the ongoing groundwater contamination problem. And I would formally like to request that we be placed on the agenda so that we can have a more detailed presentation for you. I think that as attorney for the county, Mr. Frew, you are deserving of a proper briefing now that we understand what has happened. I do have a letter from Franklin Hill, who is the director for the Superfund Division for Region 4. He is acknowledging that they are under investigation for criminal acts and fraud. That is the result of the work that we have done in this county as residents and activists having to stand up for ourselves with regard to the threat that we face that comes from the groundwater contamination. There have been 4 emergency action events in my neighborhood. And Ms. Harris can attest that we have phoned in the warning to the health department, alerting them before EPA alerted them. We have had 4 emergency responses. 3 of them required removal of drinking water sources. One of the last one should have. These are being kept quiet. We are having greater and greater exposure, and now some of the wells in my neighborhood in particular are starting to dry. We are now aware of the fact that you guys have placed a moratorium on new wells within a mile of the CTS site, which means what we're left with is fracking our wells, and everyone in this county and everyone around the state is aware of the dangers that the fracking process presents. It's an unfair way as a taxpayer to be living on a day-to-day basis. I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. I should not have to worry about the exposure to the cyanide that is in my well and the chromium that's tested in my well or my neighbors. And so I do ask that you guys step forward and be with us. You know, for months we heard excuses why that building wouldn't come down, and that building came down. And what's underneath the building is the real threat. And that's been known for all of the years that we've been working on it, and it goes all the way back to when CTS was dumping their product, which we were nice enough to have that information corroborated by one of the commissioners. In closing, I do want you to know that part of the documentation that was removed from the library by Mr. David Dorian, which was a violation of CERCLA laws when he removed that administrative record, happens to be the document of a faked CERCLA incident. They faked an incident to generate a fake name called Mills Gap Road Groundwater Contamination Site, and this is why they're under investigation. And I urge you to get on the right side of this one. You don't want to be catching up. Okay, so please put us on your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. McQueen. Is there any other public comment tonight? All right.
Move adjournment.
Been a motion by Commissioner Bailey, a second by Commissioner Jones. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.